No One Will Save You is written and directed by Brian Duffield and stars Kaitlyn and is currently out on Hulu. And the film is about an exiled, anxiety-ridden homebody who must battle an alien who's found its way into her home. But before we go any further, I do want to give a special thank you to the sponsor for this video, BetterHelp. The past few years have had a few major life changes for me between becoming a parent as well as professionally making a movie finally, and there was a lot to talk about, which is why it was great to be able to turn to BetterHelp. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who is going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, and this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. That's betterhelp.com/Chris Stuckmann. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gives you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. You can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Check out my link in the description below or visit betterhelp.com/Chris Stuckmann. And thanks again to BetterHelp for supporting this channel. Home invasion thrillers have been around for a long time. Some of them are very good, some not so much. The Strangers is definitely pretty fun, but most of them feature human beings trying to break into your house. Rarely do you see aliens doing that, unless you're watching the third act of Signs. This movie takes the third act of Signs and says, what if it was the first act, and then builds from there. In regards to camera work, I think this might be Duffield's best directed movie. The camera moves around the house in subtle ways that keep the alien's presence a mystery. The first act of this movie is extremely strong, and it's everything that the trailer and the log line promises. Now, of course, I'm not going to get into any spoilers because I wouldn't do that to you. The movie just came out, but I will say that that's just the start. It definitely builds from that plot and extends into further areas that I did not anticipate. Some of them I very much loved. Others I'm still sort of figuring out. I won't come out and say that it didn't work for me because I had a really interesting experience watching the final 15 minutes of the movie because I didn't entirely understand what Duffield was saying. There were things I feel like I missed. There were some things that may have even gone over my head. But I felt like I was in good hands. I've talked about this before, when you know a filmmaker knows they know exactly what they're saying, but it's not 100% clear to you while you're watching it. But you know it's there and you just have to either watch it again or dig a little deeper. And it's strange because I expected this to be Panic Room with aliens, but it was more than that. And it became richer, especially for our character and how she views the world that she's forced to live in. And there's a really interesting idea buried in this film in regards to her character because we start the movie out with her in a certain place and we understand that things are not going well for her. We don't 100% know why, but we feel like we probably do. And when those suspicions are confirmed and the situation that has presented itself to her that is very horror and genre, the aliens and what they're doing, there's a really thought-provoking thing that happens that sort of puts into question what exactly you're watching, and it makes you think, which I did not anticipate. I talked to my buddy about this movie for like an hour afterwards, which I really just thought we would be like, wow, that was cool, or I ate some popcorn and had a good time. But the film posed questions about our lead character and her viewpoint of the world and how it has now changed that are not easily answered. It's very subversive. It doesn't take itself in the direction that you would expect it to, and some people will absolutely hate that. I fully expect to see a lot of really cringy Amazon and Rotten Tomatoes user reviews that say it's the worst film that's ever been made or whatever, half star. But I do think this movie might spark some very heated conversations afterwards. Kaitlyn Dever is excellent in a role that barely has any dialogue. A choice was clearly made to limit the amount of time she speaks. So most of the movie relies on her communicating her fear and her anxiety just through looks, and she is terrific. If you've seen the trailer, you know that there are a few different alien designs. Some of them I thought were rather familiar and not very impressive. But there is one in the movie that you do glimpse at the end of the trailer that was actually quite terrifying and created some of the most beautiful shots in the movie. And that's probably the thing about the movie that bothered me the most. You see the aliens a lot in very clear close-ups, very well lit, and I do think that takes away some of the horror. I wish that he didn't linger as much. One of the reasons the xenomorph is so terrifying is because you barely ever see it. If you actually see like BTS footage from Alien or Aliens and the people in suits are just kind of walking around, it loses something. And I do wish they went a little further beyond the idea of the classic gray alien, which is why that one giant spider looking thing that was in the end of the trailer was so impressive, because that seemed different to me. It's weird. I honestly cannot wait to read discussion on this film, because I don't think it goes in a single direction that people are expecting it to, which is classic of Brian Duffield. He really likes to sort of take your expectations and throw them out the window. And I think he's made another really fun genre movie that will be discussed potentially in a heated fashion, but I think a lot of it works very well, and I would like to see it again. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. Please continue to look forward to more videos very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.